Welcome back to the Neutral Zone. Today I'm going to be covering my top 12 teams who I think are going to make the college football playoffs this season, the 2024 season. Before I get started, please, if you're new to the channel, like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single upload. We just hit 1,100 subscribers. We would love for you to join our community. We talk college football every other day. Today it's just myself. Obviously, my dad is not here with me today, but I kind of want to give my top 12, my projections, my predictions on how the season's going to unfold. We are a month out from the season right now. So this is my prediction. Obviously, everyone's going to have their own. I could be spot on. I could be very wrong. Could be in between. So take it with a grain of salt. But this is the way I perceive the college football season, and what teams I believe are going to be better at the end of the year, and we're going to be in line to win to play for a national championship. Not necessarily win, but to get into the playoffs and play for a national championship come end of December, early January. So my number 12. This is the group of 5 team that I think is going to get in, and that's going to be Liberty. Caden Salter obviously had a really good season last year. He returns. I think this is the best group of 5 team in college football this year. Obviously, you have a team like Memphis. You have a team like Tulane who brought some pieces over from USC, Oklahoma. But I think that this team in Liberty has a chance to get to the playoffs. And we'll talk about who their matchup would be. But I think they have a chance to surprise some people, and I mean, potentially even win their first round matchup. So I have Liberty as the 12th seed, as the automatic bid for the group of 5. My number 11 is going to be the first Big Ten team that I name, and that's Penn State, the Nittany Lions. I think this Penn State team is the best team that James Franklin has had in his tenure there. You bring back Drew Allar, Nick Singleton is going to be solid. The entire defense is really one of the most veteran defenses in the Big Ten, and not only Big Ten, really the college football, as a whole. So I do think Penn State has a really good chance to make some noise this year with the Big Ten adding USC, Washington, Oregon, and UCLA. I think of those 4 teams, the only one I'm really concerned about is Oregon. I think I favor them in every other matchup. Not to say they play all 4 of those teams, but I'm just saying as far as, the landscape of the Big Ten, I think there are only 3 teams that I would say I'm concerned about Penn State playing is Oregon, Ohio State, and Michigan. But Michigan is, I feel like, going to have a down year compared to last year winning the national championship. So I think Penn State has a chance to get in the playoffs this year. So they're my number 11 seed. My number 10 seed is Florida State. Obviously, after a undefeated regular season, winning the AC title and then getting hammered against Georgia, I think they have a lot to prove. You bring over DJ Uiagalelei from Oregon State, formerly at Clemson. You bring in over Roydell Williams and Malik Benson. I think they've really got accustomed to using the portal, sort of like Colorado. Now, obviously, they recruit a lot better than Colorado does out of high school. Mike Norvell has proved that he's a hell of a coach, so I do respect what he's doing there. I do think, though, what they've lost defensively as well as offensively, you lose Keon Coleman, Johnny Wilson, you lose running backs, you lose Jordan Travis, you lose Jaheim Bell, you lose offensive linemen, you lose Jared Verse. So you do bring back Ventrell Cypus, who in my opinion is one of the best corners in the ACC. But I don't know how good this team can be when losing all that production offensively, but just as much defensively as well. You lose your best defender in Jared Verse. So I don't know how good this team can be. They do play Notre Dame this year on the road at Notre Dame. You do host Clemson. So I do think they have, they have to go 1-1 in those games, which I think they can. I don't know, who I favor in each of those matchups because I think it's pretty even across the board. All 3, Notre Dame, Clemson, and Florida State, all have kind of question marks heading into this year. But for me, Florida State, they just the production they've lost offensively we have to see how it's gonna fare out in the first couple of weeks. But I have them at number 10. I still haven't getting to the playoffs. My number 9 is Georgia. This might be a surprise pick to some of you guys. But I think the SEC is loaded this year. The Pac-12 was loaded last year. And I think Georgia is going to succumb to that. I think, with Texas now joining, the SEC, with Ole Miss taking a step forward with the transfer portal and Lane Kiffin, with Missouri now bringing up some pieces back, and they're going to be good this year. Tennessee is still up and coming. Alabama's always going to be there, even without Nick Saban. They're still projected to go 9-3 at minimum. LSU's a tough team to play against. Oklahoma's a tough team to play against. So I just think the SEC is so loaded that we're going to get the Pac-12 kind of vibe that we had last year, where there's so many good teams that anyone can get knocked off any given week. So I think Georgia makes the playoffs, but I don't have them winning the SEC this year. I do think they're a top 3 to 5 team, but I think as their schedule progresses and as you're playing SEC talent week in and week out, it's going to take a toll on them. So yeah, I have I have Georgia at the number 9 spot. With one spot ahead of them, number 8, I have Ole Miss. Ole Miss right now to me is a top 5 team as well. I think Ole Miss is a really good team. Jackson Dart is in the Heisman consideration right now. Lane Kiffin is trying to build his own brand after leaving Alabama and Nick Saban. He hit the portal hard, and in my opinion, had one of the best portal classes this offseason. You lose Quinshon Judkins, obviously, which is going to hurt, and it's going to make Ohio State really good. But you still have Ulysses Bentley the fourth, so I still think he's going to be a bell cow for them. You still have a good receiving core. Defensive line should be a lot better than they were last year. The defense, let's be honest, was not very good last year. But I do think they're going to be a lot better this season after hitting the portal hard, having a top 15 recruiting class. I do think that this team is going to be good enough to compete for the SEC, which in turn is going to be good enough to get them to the playoffs. And that's where I have them. I have them as the number 8 seed. Another SEC team. So this is our third SEC team in a row. This is where I have Alabama. Alabama at 7. Again, kind of how I feel about Michigan, how I feel about Florida State. You lost a lot of production to the portal. You still bring back Jalen Milroe, who I think is the Heisman favorite at this point. Kalen DeBoer comes over after leading Washington to a national championship, runner-up, I should say, a national championship appearance. So I think he's a good coach. But again, you lose Nick Saban. And it'd be ignorant for me to say, well, Alabama this and Alabama that. You lost what led. You lost the head of the snake at the end of the day. You lost Caleb Downs. Roydell Williams leaves. Damn near all the wide receivers leave. So, I mean, Isaiah Bond, obviously, Jermaine Burton. So a lot of these guys left. Now, you bring in Ryan Williams. You still have 5-star guys. So I'm not saying there's not 5-star guys on this roster. So Alabama fans, don't get that confused. I do think this team is good enough to get in the playoffs. I think they're good enough to compete for the SEC. I don't have them winning the ACC. I mean, the SEC, I'm sorry. But I do think that this team will be in the playoffs. I have them going, I think, 10-2, something like that. We've done their preview, so you guys can scroll back and look. But I think this team is good enough to get in the playoffs, and I think they could win it all. When you have a guy like Jalen Milroe, he gives me Lamar Jackson vibes. I mean, when you have a guy like that who is a certified game breaker, he can beat any team damn near by himself. And Alabama's always going to have a good defense. So, although Georgia has become the standard in college football, I think Alabama, in my eyes, is still the guys to beat. So I have them going to number 7 seed. Number 6 seed, I have Ohio State. So this is now my second Big Ten team. I have Ohio State here at 6 because I feel like there's another team in the Big Ten that I favor. But Ohio State probably has the best roster in college football. If we're being honest, if we're looking at on paper, they have 2 top 4 running backs in college football. They have one of the best receiver rooms in college football. They have a top 5 defense in college football. So I think the only question mark we have is Will Howard. Moving over from Kansas State, how good can he be when the lights are the brightest? How good can he be in playoff time? Because let's be honest here, at Kansas State, he wasn't playing for playoff spots. He wasn't playing in the national spotlight week in and week out. Ohio State is going to be in the national spotlight every single game. And the fact that Will Howard now is replacing a guy like Kyle McCord, who didn't pan out and now is at Syracuse. He has immense pressure on his shoulders. Ryan Day has pressure on his shoulders for the whole Michigan debacle. He has to win that game as well. So I think this is a big year for Ohio State. I think you, for one, have to beat Michigan. And I also think it's championship or bust. I think they have to, at minimum, get to the championship game or maybe the semifinal. Because if this is a first round exit type team, or if this is a team that can't beat Michigan, I don't see Ryan Day, holding and retaining his job any longer, because the Ohio State fans, the Ohio State faithful, they expect to beat Michigan and they expect to win national championships. And Ryan Day has not been able to do that. And Ohio State last won in 2014, I think, with Ezekiel Elliott. So against Oregon, if I'm not mistaken. So this team has to get to that level. They went to the national championship a few years back when they had Justin Fields. But I think this team has to get to that level at the end of the day. So I have them at number 6, which is still very respectable. Number 5, I don't know if this is going to be a shocker because I'm very high on this team this year, and I was very high on them last year. But this is Notre Dame. I think their schedule plays out very, very favorable for themselves. Riley Leonard moves over from Duke. Obviously, the Sam Hartman project and experiment didn't pan out. He holds damn near every record in the ACC, but went to Notre Dame, and it's a completely different offense. They did not run the slow mesh. It's more of a pro-style offense, and he did not fit that. We saw that hurt his draft stock. So now he's a backup quarterback to Jaden Daniels, if I'm not mistaken. either Jane Daniels or the Patriots. I forget. I'm pretty sure it's Jane Daniels. But yeah, I mean, I think Notre Dame this year losing Audric Estime, but you have Jeremiah Love, and he is a game breaker in his own right. So I do think Notre Dame's going to have one of the best defenses in college football with Benjamin Morrison coming back, top 5 corner. And then they always have good tight ends. They always have good offensive lines. You lose Tobias Merriweather, you lose Chris Tyree. But I still think that this team is going to be solid. Jaden Greathouse, breakout true freshman last year. So I do think that he's going to be a lot better this season as well. We just have to see. But I think Notre Dame's schedule is it's too favorable for them to not make the playoffs. If I'll put it this way, if Notre Dame does not make the playoffs this year, Marcus Freeman will not be the head coach at Notre Dame after the 2024 season. It would be inexcusable. They play Florida State, and I think they play USC. That's the only games that's like and this is off the top of my head. Mind you, I could be missing a game, but if I'm not mistaken, Florida State and USC are the only 2 games where I'm like, they could lose. And I think USC losing Caleb Williams and having absolute no defense favors Notre Dame heavily. And I think with Florida State losing so much and hosting them, that favors them heavily as well. This could be a 12-0 team. Now, obviously, they can't get the 1 seed because they can't be a conference champion. I do think this team goes at least 11-1. So that's why I have them at the 5 seed. And I think they look dominant all year long. I think this team is going to be very, very good this year. So yeah, I have it number 5. All right, so my top 4, these are my conference champions. These are my 4 that are going to get the first round bye. So my number 4, I've been very, very adamant and very I've been voicing myself heavily on this team in the Big 12, and that's Utah. I think Utah is the glaring favorite in the Big 12. You have probably the most experienced quarterback in the country, if not I know in the Big 12 for sure, but if not the country, in Cam Rising, obviously coming off of injury. I think Utah moving on from the Pac-12. And Texas and Oklahoma moving out of the Big 12, I think it lines up perfectly for them to absolutely storm through this conference. Obviously, Oklahoma State's going to be solid. Kansas State should be solid. Colorado, they have the talent, but we have to see how they pan out. Kansas, obviously. But I think Utah's team there's just Kyle Whittingham knows how to build a team from the ground up. He doesn't use the transfer portal heavily. He's not a recruiting hotbed. I just think he grabs guys that fit his scheme, fit his style of play, and fit his program, and they win football games. I've been on record on this channel saying that this is the most disrespected program in the nation, and I still stand on that. I think Utah has been, the epitome of winning. I think in the last 4 years they won 2 Pac-12 titles. Last year, obviously, they competed with like 3 different quarterbacks. Nate Johnson's now at Vanderbilt. He's going to be a starter quarterback at Vanderbilt. The other quarterback, I don't know his name. He had more of the arm, and Nate Johnson was more of the runner. But they competed in every single game this year without their best player in Cam Rising. So I think that goes to show when Cam Rising's back, if healthy, can compete with anyone. So I have them at my number 4 seed. I think they go 11-1 or so as well, maybe 10-2. But I think they win the conference. So I think they get the 4 seed. My number 3 seed, you guys are going to say is the homer pick, but I have Clemson. I favor Clemson over Florida State just based off of the production loss with Florida State. I think Clemson last year, going 8-4 in the regular season, a lot of those games I feel like were bad bounces. You saw the Miami game losing in double overtime. We lost to NC State, we lost to Duke, and then we lost to Florida State in overtime at home as well. I just don't think a lot of those losses are going to happen again. I think we're going to have one of the best defenses in the ACC. I think still, though, I'm going to be honest here. Even though I have Clemson winning the ACC, we very well could be a first round exit, or I would say a second round exit because we'll get a bye in my prediction, in my mock. But I think that we'd be a first round exit. I don't think Cade Klubnik is a championship caliber quarterback. And again, I've gotten hate from fellow Clemson fans about that. But I call it how I see it. I think this is a really good defense. We saw it last year, a top 10 defense, but the offense was lackluster. It was piss poor. Cade Klubnik made boneheaded decisions, young, inexperienced quarterback decisions, and he's now going to his 3rd year in college. It's just unacceptable at the end of the day. We still haven't brought in another top quarterback to replace him, so he's really the only option. I don't think Vizina is going to be able to, take the reins and, if something goes bad, he'll be the guy now. I think our quarterback room is really, really bad. And I think Cade Klubnik leads a really bad quarterback room, and he's the best option that we have, so we have to roll with him. So I have him at the 3 seed. Wouldn't be surprised if we lost, in the second round after the bye week, though, just because I don't know how good this team is when the quarterback can't make the plays needed to win the big time games. So we'll have to see. But my number 2, my SEC champion, is Texas. I think Texas is With Ohio State, the best team in college football. They had a great portal class with Andrew Makuba. They obviously bring back Quinn Ewers. Arch Manning retains. They have one of the best offensive lines in college football. Isaiah Bond comes over from Alabama. Sarkisian is really building a program, and they're building a brand at Texas. And I think they are my favorite in the SEC. I like Ole Miss a lot. I like Alabama. I like Georgia. But I think Texas just has a little bit too much depth, and they have too much experience, especially with Quinn Ewers. He's now a 4 or 5 year guy at the college level. I think 4 year guy at the college level after transferring from Ohio State. Jalen Milroe is really good. Carson Beck is really good. Jackson Dart's really good. But I just like Quinn Ewers in this offense. I like their defense a lot. I like the way their schedule pans out. So I do think that this team has the tools to bring back the correct tools to get back, I should say, to the playoffs. And I do have them winning the SEC. So I have them in my 2 seed, and they very well could win the national championship. My number 1 seed, I talked about them before with Ohio State. This is Oregon. I don't think Oregon is the best team in college football. So let me start by saying that. I don't think pound for pound they're the best team in college football. But I do think the way their schedule pans out while hosting Ohio State, and my dad and I will be at that game. We already bought the tickets, so we will be at that game. I think it's like on October 15th or 16th or something like that. But we will be at that game. I think Dylan Gabriel is a proven quarterback. I think he goes into an offense that's going to fit him very well at the transfer for Oklahoma. Evan Stewart's there. Tez Johnson's there. I think this team is going to be very, very solid. And when you look at how their schedule lines up, like I said, I don't think they're the best team in college football, but I picked them to beat Ohio State. And I think Ohio State is the best team in college football. The reason why I favor them over Ohio State is because it's a home game. I think Autzen Stadium in Eugene is going to be rocking for that game. It could be a rainy type game. It could be an ugly game. So I think when you look at all the factors that plays into college football, I think home field advantage is, in my opinion, the number 1 factor. I think home field advantage is second to none in any sport outside of college football. So I think when you're hosting, in my opinion, the best team in college football, there's, of course, me and my dad are going there as Ohio State fans. My dad's an Ohio State fan, so we're going there as Ohio State fans. But I mean, there's how big is the stadium? 70, 80,000 people, and it's going to be rocking with full of Duck fans. And Will Howard, we just talked about him not being experienced in those big time matchups. I just favor Oregon, and I think Oregon's going to be the number 1 seed. Again, they're not I don't know if they're my pick to win the national championship. I haven't really got that far, but I think they're going to be number 1 seed. And I think the way their schedule pans out, I think the experience at quarterback is going to earn them the number 1 seed. But that's my top 12. So I'm going to run through it one more time so you guys know. Liberty at 12, Penn State at 11, Florida State at 10, Georgia at 9, Ole Miss at 8, Alabama at 7, Ohio State at 6, Notre Dame at 5, Utah at 4, Clemson at 3, Texas at 2, and Oregon at 1. Let me know in the comment section if you guys want me to break down who I have winning that, fictional or projectional bracket that I made. I may even have my dad come on here and do his. Given that I did this by myself, that would be pretty fun to kind of have him have his own video and me have my own video. Let him kind of talk about who he has in his bracket and me talk about who I have on mine. Let me know who you guys have on your bracket as well. Is there anybody I'm sleeping on? Is there anybody I overrated, underrated? Let me know. But as always, if you made it this far in the video, please like, comment, subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single upload. Join the Neutral Zone family. It's always fun. Always kind of hype on the channel when we're getting close to the start of college football season. So we look forward to talking with all you guys and debating college football throughout the year. And we'll see you guys next time. Peace out, everybody.